Hello, teachers, parents, and educational leaders, and welcome to this episode of Breaking Down the B.E.S.T. Now, during this episode, you will get a peek into the members-only area where I have tons of resources to help you make math fun, make it click, and make it stick. There should be a link somewhere around this video where you can learn more. All right, now that we got that out of the way, let's get to it, and let's break down the standard. Welcome to Breaking Down the B.E.S.T, a video series dedicated to breaking down Florida's B.E.S.T standards for math. So grab something to write with and maybe even a snack. This looks good. And don't forget to put a smile on your face. There you go, I see you. And let's dive into today's B.E.S.T standard. Hey everyone, my name is McCarthy and I am so excited that you are here joining me as we break down the following standard. Today's standard is MA.3.GR.2.4, and it says that we will solve mathematical and real-world problems involving the perimeter, which is the distance around a figure, and the area, which is the measure of the inside region of a closed figure. But we're not doing it with just rectangles or just squares. Today, it's with composite figures composed of non-overlapping rectangles. So kind of like this. These would be, if I split it right here, they would be two rectangles combined together, composed to create a composite figure. By the way, this document that I'm marking up all over is not something that I created. This is something that the Florida Department of Education releases to the public. And what I do is I'm just showing you in these episodes how I break down and think through the standards in order to create resources that are strategically aligned to the B.E.S.T standards in your taking on the B.E.S.T membership. So first we're going to break down the standard, and then we're going to hop on over to the website and I'll show you what you have access to. So let's keep going. Some clarifications here. It says that composite figures must be composed of non-overlapping rectangles. Well, we just talked about that, meaning that they can't cross, they need to just fit together just so. Each rectangle within the composite figure cannot exceed 12 units by 12 units, up to 12 by 12, and it needs to be in appropriate units in word form. For instance, if our answer is in square feet, we might also write it in square feet, but we are not going to really dive into feet squared like that. This right here is more of a middle school way of writing. Right now we're just going to focus on the wording of square. We'll abbreviate square with SQ, but that's what that means. So what are some other standards in third grade that connect to this one? Well, we've got these NSO.2.2 and 2.4. Those are the multiplication and division standards. And of course with area, we're multiplying, so we'll definitely be using those. 3.AR.1.2 is our real world problems with the 4 operations. And in this one, we do have real world problems that are going to involve 2 operations, multiplication and addition. And then we have the measurement standards right here, where there's a lot of length covered. So it's nice to tie the standard into anytime that we can bust out our rulers and measure something to determine the perimeter or just the lengths of the sides. That would be a great way to incorporate that. Just keep in mind with the measurement standards, usually they're rounding to the nearest quarter of an inch. And because we're working with just whole numbers here, we would just round to the nearest whole number if you have your students measuring these as well. Now, if the measurements are provided, you don't need a ruler, but it's great to tie that in where you can. Composite figure, I just wrote it right up here. We've talked about it, those non-overlapping rectangles. Perimeter is the distance around a figure, it's the length. A rectangle has 4 sides and 4 right angles. There are certainly a lot more attributes with that one, but those are the primary ones, 4 right angles. Where are they coming from in second grade? Well, they have had some experience with perimeter of polygons, so they can tie that in. There's some other standards too. I'm surprised I didn't mention that. But we also have in 4th grade some area and perimeter that is a little bit more intense than what we're doing in 3rd grade. For the purpose and instructional strategies section, some things that popped out at me says that the purpose of this benchmark is for students to solve mathematical and real-world problems involving perimeter and area of composite figures with whole number side lengths. No fractions, no decimals. And it builds on the work done in grade 2 with perimeter. All of the side lengths of composite figures should be given. You know what? I have seen a couple of examples where they are not given, but in taking on the best, I made sure to include all of them that were given. Again, here, we talked about this already, about combining those measurement standards and using a ruler to measure where we can. Oh, and here, this was a great, I didn't even think about this until I was reading it, but it says that students have previous experience with decomposing larger rectangles into smaller rectangles to find individual areas. We did that when we were showcasing the distributive property. And I was like, oh my gosh, can't believe I forgot that, but that's a great point to make. So we can use that knowledge to make connections to their previous learning of using that distributive property. A lot of times we will have to decompose those into 2 or more rectangles, and that there's more than one correct way to decompose it. For instance, if we go back up here, we had rectangle number 1 up top and number 2 down here. That's one way to decompose it, but we could have also dragged this straight down and made this number 1 and number 2. So I think we refer to them as rectangle B and C as we are working on those, but however you want to do that is fine. So there's just more than one right way. It should still yield the same answer. Common misconceptions that students might make. They might, for instance, with this one, let's say that we're trying to find the area of rectangle B. They might say, okay, well, 9 centimeters is the length, and 14 centimeters is the width. But that's not the case here. It's actually 5 because it ends right here. So the students may confuse where they need to break it off and which one should they use, the 5 centimeters or the 14. So having those conversations is really good. Okay, here are some examples. Notice for this one, all of the side lengths are given, which is great. But over here, they did not provide all of the side lengths, which I thought was interesting for this one. But in taking on the best, you will have all the side lengths. So let's go ahead and go over what you have access to in your membership. All right, so here we are at the home page. You're going to click Members, enter here. Select Taking on the Best, 3rd grade. Scroll down to our GR, Geometric Reasoning, and we are on the final one for this one, MA.3.GR.2.4, Area and Perimeter of Composite Figures. Click that. It'll take you to your bronze page. Now, every membership has access to this one. There's a video lesson of area and perimeter of composite figures right here, and there's a printable guide right here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and click on these silver resources, and I'll show you that bronze printable guide for that video lesson because it's also here. This is your silver resource page. So if you have the silver or the gold membership, you have access to this. I'm going to click here for the printables. While that loads, we will come back to this math misconception mystery video, and all of the worksheets that I'm about to show you, all the printables that I'm about to show you, their answer key is right here. Okay, let's go back. So this is the video lesson, area and perimeter of composite figures. So in this lesson, first I will have students shade that part in. I was like, oops, that should have been shaded in more because it does need to be a closed figure. So we'll go over 2 examples of how to find the area and the perimeter of each. This one is just straight up, here's a composite figure, and this one is in more of a real world sense. So it gives you that real world versus the mathematical that standard was talking about. Notice how all the side lengths are provided. Okay. And here we've got extra practice number 1. Once your students have practiced with taken notes with the video lesson, now they can implement these strategies on their own. There's 2 extra practice pages. And then here we have a math mission. So this one says to measure and record the dimensions of the composite figure to the nearest centimeter. This is combining that measurement standard that we have there. and we're rounding it to the nearest centimeter, which is awesome. Once we find all the side lengths here, you can determine the perimeter and the area of the composite figure and explain how you work through each task. And then finally, we have another video lesson. It's the Math Misconception Mystery video lesson. This says, what is the perimeter and the area of the composite figure? So what you'll do is you'll just click play and I will guide your students through the whole process. This is wonderful to do whole group. It can also be done in small group once your students get acclimated with the style and the expectation of these videos. So they'll solve it, and then they will watch as 4 different characters solve that same problem. Now those 4 characters are just me dressed up in silly costumes, and I have 3 of those characters make a mistake that students commonly make, and only 1 solves it correctly. So they really have to analyze what each character is saying, think through it, and verbalize what's happening too. It's great for math discourse and group discussions and friendly debates, because sometimes students will hear things that others don't hear, and it's really, really cool. Then your students can complete the detective report on page 2. This is it's page 6 of this document, but it's page 2 of Math Misconception Mystery. They'll determine who the most reasonable answer belongs to, and then evaluate the work of their others, including trying to discover what did the characters do that was correct, even though they made a mistake. So finding the good in the mistake. Okay, so that's your silver. Super, super fun. These are a big, big hit with students. They love these. Even students who aren't that, have some anxiety when it comes to math, they really enjoy these. It really does draw them in. It's fun. Then we have the gold plan. So if you have the gold plan, you have access to even more, to everything. You can go back to those bronze resources, the video lessons at any time. You can go to your silver resources with the extra practice pages, the math tasks, the Math Misconception Mystery at any time. But you also have a mini assessment. This video right here, breaking down the best, is right there with all of your resources, and it's ad-free. These videos are also on YouTube, but they do contain ads. So it's a nice little perk of being a gold member because you have those. But really, if you're a gold member, it's because of McCarthy Math 155. You have access to that, and we'll get to that in a second. But first, let me show you the mini assessment. Usually the mini assessments are about 4 to 5 questions, and teachers tend to use these as a mini assessment or as practice before a test, or just extra practice in general. Okay, a variety of question types. Got a multi-select here, written response here, all that good stuff. Okay, and of course you have your answer key right there to that mini assessment. But let's get to McCarthy Math 155. Now this is the program that schools were using in Florida before taking on the B.E.S.T, because it's aligned to the Common Core standards. It's a daily math intervention. It's a safe place for students to make mistakes. Now I know it says aligned to the Common Core standards, but there are so many video lessons that do help students to build their confidence, and those skills will still trickle over into the B.E.S.T standard. So if we click on this and you're a gold member, it'll take you to this page. The 155, by the way, stands for 155 video lessons. Try to make a video for pretty much every day of the school year. Let's click on 3rd grade. Okay, and you can scroll down and see the different units that are there. Got division, place value, adding and subtracting, multiplication. You can see below how many extra video lessons there are. Okay. Here is the unit that we've been working on with this standard, with perimeter and area. Here are some composite figures for understanding perimeter. It's a little bit different than what this standard was implying today, but you can still see if you have students struggling with perimeter, if you have the gold membership, send them a couple videos to practice this way. Okay, let me see. I think for this one, for 3rd grade, they did not have composite figures. I'm going to go back to 4th grade real quick because I think it's there. So if you have access to all 3, you could come right here to, area of combined rectangles. Unit 10, again, finding perimeter, finding the area. I have to go back and fix that, whoops. All right, so scroll, 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 and then we'll see right here, finding the area of combined rectangles. So that's just focusing on the area, but again, it's just another video lesson for you. But there's tons of perimeter and area videos inside that 3rd grade that if you do have students struggling with the basics, make sure that you're getting them on those videos while you're pulling groups, however you want to use these videos, okay? I think that's it. So hopefully this helped you to break down the standard, to understand the expectations of those composite figures, finding the area and the perimeter, and then seeing what you have access to with your membership and how it's strategically aligned to those standards. Thank you so much for leading your students, for stepping into the best version of yourself every day to inspire them to do the same. I know that you're busy, so I'm gonna let you go and I will see you next time, all right? Bye. Okay, so I know that I just said goodbye for now, but I'm gonna ask you to do one more thing, okay? If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with your teacher friends or other leaders in education. That's how I get to continue doing what I love to do, which of course is supporting you all to the best of my ability. All right, for real now, bye.